In Jessie's case, they sold an item, I think 9 times, and probably, I think y'all netted about 27, 30, over 30,000, around $30,000 with it. Had they just done it one time, they probably would have netted 5.
Hey everybody, it's Trevor Nelson with a friendly reminder to make sure that you subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell. We really hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks so much.
The big thing that comes up in this whole thing about multiple items, and that's what we do. We're in the auction consignment business, but it's not about that. That's not what we want to talk about. But what it is how you can leverage these things into a significant giving and why. More than just, hey, this works, why it works, and why these things are taking place, and why organizations like Rescuing Hope and the American Lung Association have been able to take advantage of it, and why the strategy works. And so for one, I'd like to ask Terri. So Terri, what was your take on how that worked and the fact that this is, because you've been doing this for a long time, you and I have talked about it, how taking one single item and all of a sudden it blows up into something that you're netting a significant amount of money with?
Well, I will say the very first time that you and I talked about this was 2 years ago, and I did not want to do it. I was very hesitant to do it, and you talked me into it, and you said, I promise you it's going to be awesome. And I said, okay, I trust you, fine. And I think that year we sold about 9 or 10 items.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I was not hesitant at all to do it. And so I picked an item that I thought would give the best bang for its buck, that it was a low cost item, and we offered $1,000 overall. And so basically the auctioneer said, okay, this is going to dip into your vacation money. So not your donation money, your vacation money. And if you can spend $2,600 and go on an all-inclusive trip to the Caribbean, and you kind of talked a little bit about it, and this is just $2,600, and you get to go to the Caribbean and support the American Lung Association. And we had, in the room, we had 12 people who raised their paddle at $2,600. And then we had somebody afterwards that said, oh man, I was thinking about it, I wish I would have done it. I said, it's not too late, you can still do it. So we ended up selling 13 of those just for that one item.
So what he said and saying about your vacation budget as opposed to your donation budget, because what we want to try to do, and there's a fad, I call it a fad, of saying, well, we're not going to do a live auction, we're just going to do a fund to need. And what we find is, even though they can do some significant dollars, they're leaving money on the table. But even then, if you go and do a live auction and you just have these certain items with a live auction, you're going to miss out on a lot of people, because there are people that, are they going to be able to give you $1,000? Probably not. But they're going to take a vacation regardless. They're going to go on a trip. And so that whole leveraging vacation budget versus doing it works really good. And that's where the multiples come in. Jessie, what was your...
I want to hear Jessie's process for choosing items and whatnot. Like the most recent event that you all had, I know it was last fall, but it was such a banner event. You raised so much money. Another great auctioneer was handling it. A friend of ours who's been on the webinar, Jordan Campbell, as a matter of fact.
The Scottish auctioneer.
Yeah, and I know you all love him so much, and we do too. And thank you so much once again, Jessie, for coming. But talk to us a little about the process and just what you saw and all that good stuff. And
we really started analyzing our audience. We kind of try to mix in different things. Like, for example, we know we have a ton of golfers. So we started talking to Jordan and getting his ideas and stuff like that. And so that's like one thing that we always include in our live auction is we always do some like cool, really fancy golf trip, because we know we have people in the audience that are going to buy it. And so we always do something like that. And then we just mix things in. So we kind of try to reach something for everybody. The group trips, that's not just like 2 people, usually work really, really well for us, because a lot of people will go in together and that kind of thing. And those are the trips that we sell tons of like the group trips with multiple people. And then again, we just know our audience. We have a specific person that we know if he's coming, we'll be like, hey, would you rather go to like Scotland or Ireland to golf or whatever? And he'll usually tell us. And then, once you have people that are going to get the paddles up, other people start doing it. So we always sell multiple trips in different brackets.
Destinations and whatnot and price. You said something, I think you said it 4 times, but you said audience. And it's just like how well, and Terri, I want to hear your feedback as well. And we can talk about Scotty and Jason's experience with this too. But it's just like, how important is that to understand your audience? And we know folks that do surveys, that have personal conversations, all the above, emails, phone calls, what have you, just to understand who's in the room, not just from a capacity standpoint, but as, you know, like how much they'll spend. That's important, obviously. And when it comes to picking the right items and what have you, and like Terri talked about picking an item that had a reserve price of $1,600, for instance, but just understanding your audience, just speak to that, how much that's played a role into the success of selling multiples and raising that much money in your live auction over the last couple of years. I mean, Jessie, you said it, like I said, 4 times. I mean, it's like, it's so important.
Yeah, we definitely rely on our committee to help us on knowing who's going to be in the audience. Our board is really great. We're always talking about making sure that, first of all, that you have the right people in the seats so that they're not just inviting, you know, whomever, their daughter or whatever. And so we're really strategic about making sure we get the right person in the room. And then once we're doing that too, we're making sure that we know those people as well beforehand, so they're educated, that they're not just coming in and going, oh, what, you're asking me for money, that they're already coming in the room prepared to spend. And so we're also, whenever we look at which auction items to bring in, which trips to bring in, we've pretty much got a good idea for the people who are willing to, like, want to go to the Caribbean or want to go to the Italy trips. Like this year we had a Kentucky bourbon trip, and I knew that that would be very appealing because we've got some really serious bourbon drinkers in the room,
Yeah.
connoisseurs,
Yeah.
And so I was messaging Jason multiple times beforehand because they had questions about this trip already that I wanted to make sure to answer for them. So it is really important to know who is in your room and to really cater to what they're willing to spend money on.
I'm going to pivot to Scotty for a second because
Okay.
we're talking about, and this is an interesting thing, is being an auctioneer. Scotty knows we're really kind of wired for one thing, to sell something for the highest bid possible. And this is one of those things where, and it really is. I mean, the strategy that Jessie talked about, she sold a trip 9 times for what, about $7,000-8,000 that y'all sold that one trip for, and raised an enormous amount of money. Terry's that, still they sold it 12, 13 times for 20, netted out $13,000 in bottom line. Scotty sold a trip, I think it was a year or 2 years ago, for $43,000 and sold it 4 times. The organization netted $100,000 off of one item. And the reason that happened is because he was able to control that urge to sell it to the highest, for the highest possible bid amount. And so, Scotty, why don't you talk about that a little bit, about how that works?
Sure. So from an auctioneer standpoint, I want to mention what Trevor talked about a while ago. He called us magicians, and I really appreciate that compliment, but we're not magicians at all.
You're scientists, you're fundraising scientists.
There you go. We're auctioneers, right? And our goal is to maximize the money in the room. But a lot of things that have been said about putting the right people in the room, talking about your mission, advertising your items, choosing the right packages. The success that we have the night of is everything that happened 364 days before that, that sort of thing, or 6 months, or however long you went through your planning process. So that is really, really, really important. All right, now to Jason's question. So when you have an item that you can sell multiples on, I think the key and the balance is knowing where you need to be. Obviously, you've got a reserve on it that you need to sell it for. Then you've got what it's really worth, fair market value. You've got to be real careful about not going so far that you lose the bulk of the audience. So let's just say I'm selling a $6,000 package, or it costs $3,000. Maybe you want to sell it for at least $1,000 over $4,000 or $5,000, right? It's not uncommon. I'll start it at $500. $500, $1,000, $15, to $2,000 down, $2,500 embedded up here, and $3,000, $35, $4,000. All right, now we're at $4,000, and it didn't take long to get there. And then now I've got 4 or 5 people still bidding, but I want to now start lowering my increments. Now 41, 42, 43, 44. Now I'm on $100 licks. And the reason I'm doing that is so that as I see things start to narrow at the top, and if I've got to give up a little bit of money, and I'm over here at say 4,200, I just took a bid for 43. I know I could go to 44. you know, maybe we got a bid at 41, 4,000 right there. I can back it all down to 4,000, maybe give up a few $100 and sell 5 of them. Or I can strike a balance somewhere in the middle and say, you know, hey, I just took a bid over here for 4,500. We were back over here at 4,000, or I'm right here in the middle at 4,200, 4,250, whatever. And then find a way to get everybody, you know, save the top end a little bit of money, ask the others to come up, everybody meets in the middle, and you sell 5 of them. And so there is a little bit of, you know, science formula there, if you will, on how to do that. But I think you've got to be real careful about not going too far and then trying to back it back down, because a lot of times you'll kind of lose somebody and they may not want to come back and stick with their bid. Yeah. So there is a fine line in there to do all of that. But the real goal is obviously selling as many as we can at what I call that sweet spot.
Scotty, you know, you just said that. So one of the things that we used to all do this, and I think that we've learned, and I say people that have done this for the last, I did it, I'm retired, but I did it for 30 years, doing benefit auctions and doing things. But one of the funny things, and you tell me if you agree with this number, but I believe it to be, I think I'm pretty well on this. If let's say that Trevor was the high bidder at $4,000, and I'm just making it doesn't matter what it is. It could be donated, consigned, doesn't matter, just anything. If it's there at $4,000 and Terry is at $3,500 and I sell it for Trevor for $4,000, it is a 50-50 potential whether Terry's going to come up to $4,000, because she's already said no, and it's a 50-50 deal. You go, oh, hey, could you really come up here and help us up? And it's not about the increment, it's just the fact that she's already said no. However, if I said, you know what, Terry, I've got you at 3,500, Trevor's at 4,000. What if I do this? I'm going to sell it to you for 3,500. I'm going to sell it to Trevor for 3,500. We make $7,000. It is 100% guaranteed lockdown deal. They're both going to take it. They're all going to be excited and happy.
Especially
and
with the eyes of the room on
everybody
everybody.
wins.
Yeah.
And we want to make it as easy as possible for them to say yes.
Yeah.
What's the easiest way to do it? And I'm telling you, when I say this, I mean this very respectfully to any other auctioneers that might see this or listen to it. It goes against everything that is on our DNA as an auctioneer to do that. Because what you're really trying to do, I raised $7,000 as opposed to just $4,000. I sold it 10 times, where you made $1,000 every time, as opposed to selling it twice, maybe once or twice, and then netted 3,000 or 4,000. Big difference, big difference. In Jessie's case, they sold an item, I think 9 times, and probably, I think y'all netted about 27, 30, over 30,000, around $30,000 with it. Had they just done it one time, they probably would have netted 5.